Thanks, Matt, for that introduction. And hello, everyone. Glad to be here with another DeFi integration for rETH. This one is a pretty cool one, and it's utilizing all the DeFi expansion that rETH has had in a one compact way. So we are, of course, joined by is it CIAN Protocol? How's it properly pronounced? Sorry,
CIAN,
CIAN
CIAN.
Protocol. Yeah,
Yeah,
CIAN Protocol, which has a suite of strategies that you can use on with rETH on their platform. So, would you like to introduce yourselves and very briefly what your platform provides?
yeah. So, first, some brief background of myself. I'm the founder and the CEO of CIAN, Living. I started my career as a software and hardware co-design engineer with Intel Corporation in Netherlands, and then moved to Stanford University doing research in FPGA-based supercomputing architecture. Later on, I redirected my career to strategy consulting, first with Accenture, then with McKinsey. And then in 2017, um, after founding, I mean, an unsuccessful internet company, um, I started doing arbitrage in crypto and started to grow the team and grow our understanding of the decentralized world and gradually transition from CeFi to DeFi. I mean, starting from end of 2019, even before DeFi summer, and about 15 months ago, 1.5 years ago, we initiated the idea of bringing advanced DeFi strategy tools, automation tools to the public, and that's Kian. And Kian actually use open source DeFi strategy, vaults, and advanced decentralized automation tools that enable users to generate their own strategies. So starting from day one, which was like more than a year back, KM had a strategic focus on LST. At that time, we expected LST to disrupt the entire DeFi stack because we thought it was destined to become both largest yield source and largest asset class in DeFi in the years to come. And especially in the bearish we believe it's the single biggest yield powerhouse in DeFi. And after and curve was not able to, provide a high yield anymore. McKeon started from Avalanche Network, which at that time was still pretty active. Then Kian gradually extended its reach to Polygon ecosystem. And for the time being, Kian generates around 50 million of dollar TVL via its LSD related strategies on both Avalanche and Polygon networks. Kian is the largest LSD related strategy provider. Now we are extending the presence to Ethereum ecosystem with quite strong support from almost all the mainstream LSD service providers, among which Rocketpool is the most decentralized protocol. And in the past couple of weeks, Kian has released the vaults for LST recursive strategy on all mainstream Ethereum L1 and L2 networks. And last week we launched the first strategy also for Rocketpool. So I think
Yeah,
that's
that's awesome.
yeah.
Let's
Yeah,
talk a little
thanks,
bit
Jasper.
about how users would navigate Cayenne for the rETH specific strategy. So, as a new Cayenne user, when you go to the protocol, you have to create a smart contract wallet. Is that correct?
Well, we provide two type of services in general. First, the automation tools. So to utilize automation tools, you're gonna create a smart contract because to do any kind of automation in a completely decentralized way, and our users can choose, you gotta have your own smart contract. So we call it a smart wallet. And that's one format of the service we provide. And the other format is bot. sort of a conventional wallet, but the wallet framework is totally different. We implement pretty advanced automation in vaults, and in vaults, users does it in a pretty straightforward way. They just deposit tokens in the vaults and then leave it behind.
Got it. So in the vaults, is the current rETH deployed strategy a vault or in the smart
Yes,
contract wallet? Is it in the vault?
it's in a vault. It's in a
Got it. So
vault.
that's
I
easy.
mean,
So no smart contract involved. So users can just deposit directly into the vault and then have their rETH deployed within the strategy. And this strategy is a recursive looping on Aave, right? So users will have ETH borrowed against their rETH and then deposit it back for them.
yeah, it is. So unfortunately, the market does not support the good yield for the strategy right now. We've got to be patient and wait for a while until it generates a higher yield. But I mean, if we look back like 10 months, in general, it will generate a pretty good sweet APY to the users.
Yeah, unfortunately, for the time being, the rETH APY is being a bit dragged down by the queue, in which about a third of our validators are stuck in. However, in the future, the rETH APR should be above the borrow rate, making this basic strategy profitable. I had a question about one of your other vaults. It mentioned a strategy of automatic arbitrage, where users would automatically buy underpeg LSTs and then sell them on peg. Can you talk a little bit about that strategy?
Yeah, for sure. So we haven't implemented that as a strategy about it. What we did was we provided an automation tools for the user to, I mean, run their own strategies um, in their smart wallet, and it's it's kind of interesting strategy. It's not only the arbitrage, um, I mean, for the cap, for the gap between the nominal price of LSD and a market price. Um, it's actually also leveraged. So it means if there is 1% of difference between nominal price and market price for one of the LSD, let's say Rocket Pool ETH, then in this strategy, it helps you to leverage it by 3 times utilizing Aave. So that means you could enjoy 3% of the premium, and that's how it works.
That's pretty interesting. And this is built through the automation tools. Uh, is this possible to do with rETH currently then, or no?
Uh, to deal with you mean with a bot?
Not with Evolve. So if I wanted to, so users could set
How
up
are you?
this, yes, automation strategies with rETH.
Okay. So it's been sort of simple for us. We just replace the token, but apparently there were a lot of tweaking you need to do to make sure the compatibility is not a problem. So after some testing, we could make it
Yeah,
available.
one of the interesting things about rETH is it has the opposite kind of peg issue occasionally that Steve has, where sometimes Steve will go under peg, giving this arbitrage opportunity for people to buy Steve under peg and sell it at peg. rETH occasionally can also drift over peg, so there's sometimes opportunities to hold rETH, sell it up above peg, and then buy it back when it hits peg again. Uh, so setting up both types of automations would be pretty interesting through CIAN.
That's good. And actually, I didn't really realize that's a good use case for our ETH holders. So, yeah, we'll definitely have a deep discussion internally and try to make it available to our ETH users ASAP.
Got it. Can you talk a little bit about the protocols that you have currently and are potentially planning on expanding to in the future?
Um, yeah, well, We are actually expanding both horizontally and um, vertically, actually. Horizontally, we actually um, are expanding our presence across multiple networks. Um, as I mentioned, we started with Avalanche and Polygon, and then we gained some experience and understand the user behavior and what user needs from that period of operation. And now we are landing on Ethereum mainnet um, two layer twos. One is Arbitrum and Optimism. Optimism is also alive when this week. Um, and we're also looking into ZK based L2s. They're not really mature at the moment, but we're keeping a close eye on it. Um, I'm not. I'm at the moment. I'm not sure how many ZK based L2s we're gonna mention. But for sure, ZK Sync and Polygon Hermes are the two targets. For the rest, we gotta see the progress. Um, that's
Yeah, it's going to be
for
interesting to see where the ecosystem ends up building around. There's so many of these changes that seem like they're about to be launching.
yeah, absolutely. And also, I mean, that's horizontal and vertically. We are also looking at different LSDs we want to support. We started from smaller LSD service providers on Avalanche, that's Banky, and then we expanded to Stater, Polygon. Later, we started to support Lido, who provided a lot of incentives to us, starting with Polygon network as well. And on Ethereum, I think the two main targets or main partners are Rocket Pool and Lido. So we actually got a lot of requests from other networks, like from Cosmos ecosystem, Solana ecosystem, and even Filecoin ecosystem. I mean, requesting us to launch our protocol there, but we gotta see how's it gonna play out.
Awesome. Could you talk a little bit about the fee structure associated with the vaults? So let's say that the vault is earning a 5% APR. How much of that actually gets returned to the vault depositor, and does CIAN take any cut of that?
Yeah, um, for the tool, Kian actually does not charge anything at the moment. For the strategy vault, Kian kind of from 6% to 10% of the profits user make. So that's performance fee. Say user make a 5% APY out of the strategy vault, and Kian might get 0.25% or 0.3%, a pretty small premium.
That's a pretty fair amount. And you mentioned that the tools, they don't, CIAN doesn't charge any fees. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's free for now.
Awesome. So can you
But
walk me through, yep.
okay, I got to just remind some of the users um, the tools, to use the tools for um, rETH holders, it might be a little expensive because I think rETH is pretty. I mean, it's prevalent on the mainnet. For small investors, the gas fees on the mainnet is killing. So keep an eye on the gas if you want to use the automation tools on the mainnet. If you are a whale, or I mean, you are pretty sizable, that's cool, no problem.
Got it. For the automation tools, I'm guessing you can get charged gas fees whenever it activates, or is it just in the initiation?
Well, initiation is one thing. Let's take recursive strategies as an example. So to create a recursive strategy position, you gotta use the flash loan. You gotta incur a lot of gas, and also there might be price difference between unstaking price, between unstaking and market price. So that all creates a sort of what do we call lockup period, and that requires a break-even time of about 2 weeks or so, or up to 4 weeks sometimes. So for small users, this cost account for a large percent, might account for a large percentage of your principal. Let's say probably 1 to 2% possible. But for larger users, might account for a smaller percentage, like 0.5% or something. So you need to keep an eye on this.
Yeah, gas fees can really eat into things, especially with L1 fees.
Yeah.
So can
But
you
for
talk a
VODs, the
little bit?
problem
Mhm.
is alleviated. Sorry, and for VODs, the problem is alleviated because all the operations or all the funds are put together and operations are executed in batch. So all those fees are reduced significantly.
Got it. Can you talk a little bit about how the vaults are constructed? Are they built in a decentralized way when they can only activate in certain scenarios, or are there trust assumptions associated with the vaults?
Well, it's pure decentralized. So when the role of the founding team, CIAN team, is to create such a smart contracts. Everything is in smart contracts, but the team has no way to touch the funds. All the operations, all the risk management operations, all the rules are written in a smart contracts. No one can change it. And also the funds is only controlled by the user. Like all all the vaults you use in let's say in year, it's the same. It's all purely decentralized.
Are the contracts upgradable or are they immutable?
They're upgradable.
Got it, got it. And do you have an audit history? Where can users go to find and read through those if they do exist?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Auditing is super important for us. We do a lot of auditing actually internally and externally. Because security has to stand at highest in our priority list. Because we don't want to wish that a team has been striving for all the time to be ruined by a single security flaw. So that happened a lot of time. If we have a look at Euler Finance, well, fantastic protocol. Unfortunately, it's this is a protocol designed to shine, but it's ruined by a single security glitch. And for that reasons, we actually are pretty selective in our auditing partner. For the time being, we have pretty close working relationship with Paladin, which is a pretty much we worked together for a long time. We know their capability and their effort in the security auditing. Um, on the other hand, we also do internal cross check. So for different part of the smart contracts, we got a different team writing it, and then after it's been tested, we do cross check internally across different team internally, and also we do external cross check like other partners for instance. Yeah, I forgot the name. Sorry. Other protocols we are working together. They also do external security check for us. We also do that for them to make sure we don't find any problem there. So that's how we do the auditing and make sure it's secure.
That's awesome. And this is they can be read on the website you said, right? In
Yep.
detail. Awesome.
Yep.
So you mentioned they have some more complex vaults for Steve, namely arbitrage uh, across different types of protocols such as AAV2, AAV3, Compound, Morpho. rETH is currently available on Aave and Morpho with Compound a potential in the near future. Is that something that would be able to be integrated into the vault?
Yeah. Well, actually, it's already integrated in one of our vaults for an STETH, I have to say, because STETH is everywhere. It's in all those platforms. So when rETH is also, let's say, on the compound, we'll get the same structure implemented and the same protocols integrated into strategy vaults. So and the reason we integrated multiple landing protocols, compound, IBB2, IBB3, and Morpho, into one strategy vault, namely recursive looping strategy for LSD, is that we allow the funds to be dynamically reallocated across different landing protocols to optimize the APY. Say, if at a moment we found out, well, in the past couple of days, the
I think we're losing you a little bit.
dynamically will switch the position or part of the position into compound. This is the way we try to.
Yeah, cutting out for me too.
I think what he was explaining was that the borrow rates can vary across the different protocols, so you might be able to squeeze out more value if you dynamically alter your positioning across them, which is very clever and will definitely maximize APR potential for the vault depositors. Oh, we just lost him. I believe he's trying to uh, disconnect, and let's see. Hello, can you hear us? Yes, yes,
Okay.
we can hear you now.
Yep.
Yeah, so dynamically adjusting your borrowing across different protocols based on the cost, purely reasonable and economical to maximize APR.
Yep. That's the intention.
I see that you have a CIAN ambassador program. Is there anything you want to talk about this ambassador program?
Yeah. Well, ambassador program is a crucial part of our community project. So the essence of ambassador program is to motivate the participation of our communities members in the operation and in the operation of the project, in terms of marketing, especially. So we designed a system where it is pretty clearly stated um, what kind of activities user could do and earn points, and what points they could earn for all those effort that you have exerted. So that's I mean, it's quite complicated, to be honest. One of our team members spent a huge amount of time designing it and it worked out. We have that's a good system. However, we still have to put extra effort to, increase the impact of this program. But it's running perfectly now.
That's great to hear, and I encourage any of our community members who are interested to check that out. Now, do you have any final? Yeah, you want to say something?
No, not really.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you have any final comments to leave for the Rocket Pool community? The rETH Vault and the CIAN Protocol seems very attuned for squeezing the most APR you can out of leverage staking for the time being. And the decentralized tooling sounds like a great way to create an automatic arbitrage strategy if you are someone who's a bit higher in size and can handle the gas fees.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, what I mean, as I mentioned before, CIAN is a sort of unique by providing two different types of services, automation tools, and we want to extend it to further extend so that a user could, build a fantastic new strategy. But we also realize that most of the users are are reluctant to build their own strategy, either because it's takes a lot of effort to do that, or it requires a lot of understanding and expertise in DeFi to be able to do that. So we that's one of the reasons we switch our focus also to the strategy vault, which is pretty easy for users to access. And the strategy vault, one thing I want to emphasize is that, well, the strategy vault framework we're building is sort of a now next generation strategy vault. If we compare the architecture of the vault to, let's say, the conventional ones provided by CIAN or DeFi. So, and from our perspectives, there might be three things that will be key to a strategy vault in the future. First, advanced automation. So, it's pretty easy to deposit a user response into one of the pools. That's what DeFi and CIAN do mostly, and I do not see that's going to be a sustainable mode in the future. So advanced automation is going to differentiate the without the protocol, and because especially in a bear, you gotta make things running more efficiently, and you gotta need a more advanced strategy to generate a better APY in a secure way. So advanced decentralized automation is a key to realize that. And second, I think CIAN is on its way to create its own leverage capital pool. One of the reasons is that CIAN has multiple times CIAN has been the growth of CIAN is impeded by the supply cap imposed by Aave, say for STmatic or WST ETH layer 2, and sometimes rETH v3. So when there was no new room in a supply cap, well, the strategy cannot accommodate new funds. And in order to circumvent that, one of the things that we are doing is to extend the strategy framework with a leverage capital pool. And the third thing I think the next generation vault framework needs to implement is a risk classification. The risk classification within the vault. For instance, in the leverage staking strategy, let's take it as an example. Leverage staking strategy or recursive looping strategy, what we call it, is sort of quasi delta neutral, but it's not a pure delta neutral. Whenever there is a depegging event, well, temporarily there is a loss in the funds, but in most of the cases it'll go back pretty soon. But for some of the whales and institutions, especially, they seek, pure delta neutral strategy. So in this strategy model, what we could do is to, provide a two different level of guarantee to users. The users who doesn't want any risks in this swap, they could, let's say, they have a priority when they want to exit a position, but they have to sacrifice a part of their APY. But for users who understand LSD better, they have sufficient confidence that, depegging is not is not sustainable. So they could enjoy higher APY and also they have to take no higher risks. So the risk classification might also be an important element in the next generation about the strategy vault. So that's about the vault we're working on. And the other thing I highly want to mention is the focus CIAN has on LSDs. Aside from the strategies, the automation tools we provide, CIAN is actually also working on. Actually, we're at the edge of releasing a DEX. That DEX is highly optimized for LSDs because in the past couple of months, we realized that the existing AMM structure is not really ideal for LSD trading. LSD is too different. It could be a stake. It is a nominal price. So we devised such a optimized the DAX to increase the capital efficiency of LPs multiple times and with tailored optimization. I think this could also contribute to the liquidity growth of rETH in the future. So that's
That was very interesting.
yeah. And aside from that, we are also building a pretty strong distribution network. Many of the top institutions, crypto platforms, centralized ones, especially like Matrix Forge, OKX, and a bunch of top wallets, Trust Wallet, Ledger, they are integrating CIAN. And Matrix Forge is the first one who finished integrating CIAN. And we expect a lot of volume will flow into CIAN's vault and strategy, automation strategy tools in a month to come. I hope that also contributed to the growth of rETH in the rocket pool. So yeah, that's what I want to say. Thanks, Jasper.
Yeah, that was incredible talk. Ton of alpha there in the future of CIAN. Very excited to see what AMM designs you guys have cooking to increase the capital efficiency. AMM design is a particular interest of mine for the incentive management committee, where we decide where RPL inflation incentives go to maximize liquidity depth and enable optimal trading. Also, definitely love what you guys are doing with the risk factors on vaults. Tons of these strategies do not clearly indicate risks to the users. For example, not to pick on Index Co-op, but their Index Co-op token during the Three Arrows collapse cost a lot of people money who didn't understand the risk. So yeah, tons of great stuff coming out of CIAN Protocol. And if people are interested, where can they learn more about you guys? CIAN, sorry.
Yeah. Thanks, Jasper. You're pretty welcome to find us in our Discord community and also in our Twitter. It's pretty simple to search CIAN. And the last point I probably want to express is CIAN's potential success actually roots in its contribution to the growth of ecosystem of its LST partners. Rocket Pool, especially in the Ethereum ecosystem, as well as the impact CIAN could have in the its partners' LST ecosystem. So I think it makes a lot of sense for Rocket Pool community members to keep an eye on the CIAN's progress, because we are, trying to, also push the growth of Rocket Pool. Thanks.
Thank you guys. Yeah, great conversation, and CIAN is a great opportunity for rETH holders to expand their DeFi access. Make sure you check out their Twitter and website to learn more about CIAN Protocol. For the second half of today's call, we will be switching gears and focusing on the Rocket Pool bi-weekly update. The folks from CIAN are welcome to stick around while we talk about our Rocket Pool. But yeah, as we shift gears, will we be joined by Darren, Mav, or is it just going to be us two duking it out over these integrations and updates?
I've sent him a permission to speak. So, oh no, here he is.
Hello. Hello, everybody.
Hey, Darren. Good to hear from you. So we are now going to jump into the rocket pool portion of today's call. Rocket pool has had a stupendous amount of growth recently, continuing from Atlas onward. This past week has seen a bit of a slowdown in the rate of rETH growth, but we still have seen several days consistently over 1,000 ETH per day in deposits. Last week, we were the second largest pool operator in terms of ETH deposits, right after Lido, surpassing both Coinbase and Binance in terms of net deposits. So, how are you feeling, Langers, about Rocket Pool's recent growth?
Yeah, it's been amazing, and I think it was over the weekend. There wasn't as many kind of deposits that kind of came in, and I was like, oh, okay, things have kind of slowed down a little bit, and then I think we had like a massive couple of deposits, and it was all back on again. So no,
Right.
it doesn't seem to be. It is definitely kind of slowing down, but it's we're still growing at a very good rate. So and I think also the kind of like the bearishness is kind of kicking in a little bit, but also I think the whole kind of validators being stuck in the queue, that's causing probably a little bit of a slowdown there. But once that kind of works its way through, it'll be kind of a lot better. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's kind of like a natural product braking mechanism, but it'll be good once a lot of our validators hit the beacon chain.
That's right. Approximately between 25% and one-third of our validators are currently stuck in the queue, which is having a huge effect on our rETH APR. Have you taken a look at Invis's rETH APR bot in the Discord? It actually shows you what the expected APR would be if all our mini pools were dequeued, and rETH would be just over 4%, and it's currently around 3%, which is pretty wild.
Yeah, I haven't seen. I've just been seeing it on the website because we've been doing a little bit of work on the website. So I've definitely I've been seeing that number, that dip. And now it's kind of coming back up again, which is good. But yeah, I know I'll check out Invis's bot actually. That'll be good.
Yeah, and it would be above the current ETH borrow rate, which means that had if rETH wasn't so queued, it would be profitable to leverage stake it and Aave, which is just unfortunate to think about, but also bodes well for the future.
It does, and it kind of speaks to the size of the growth that we've had. It's just been
Yeah,
insane. The fact that kind of like up to a third of all of our validators are in that queue is pretty amazing.
so despite the recent bearishness, the protocol is continuing to grow quite expediently. So, in terms of the Spark node, version 1.9.6 was released as an optional update. Uh, it has some noteworthy improvements and provide support for the new Geth and Nethermind releases. Anything notable or worth mentioning here?
I think with this one was this was quite big for Nethermind. I think. I think so. With Geth, I'm pretty sure Pebble is now default. So that's quite good. So Pebble is their new kind of like database that Geth's using. It's kind of better supported, and there's some kind of improvements there. Sorry, excuse me. Nethermind, I think, was quite a big one because I believe there's quite a dramatic reduction in kind of like disk space usage, and I think they've done a lot of work in the previous release on memory, so the memory was a lot better. I used kind of mine, so I was quite pleased. So RAM was improved, and now this round the disk space was improved. That requires a resync. Yeah, it requires a resync, but it's much better. So yeah, Nethermind is really coming along as kind of as a very good execution client, and I definitely recommend it.
I'm reading that a fresh sync required 523 gigs, which is sounds really good and it's surprisingly low.
Yeah, no, it is good. When you resync, your CPU goes absolutely crazy, but because it really does sync. Nethermind really does sync quite fast, and it really hammers the kind of the CPU. But it's yeah, no, it is good. It's a good client. So
In somewhat related client news, rETH, or our namesake, has just been launched as a competing execution client out
yeah,
of
this
Paradigm.
was it you? Was it you, or was it the intern that said the second best read?
I think that was the intern. That was a good one. Yeah. But I'm assuming Rocket Pool will soon add rETH support once rETH is made it to mainnet. It's currently still in its alpha form. rETH did have some history as it was born from the Akula project, which was then taken over by Paradigm. However, client diversity is a major goal and is generally quite important. So getting a Rust client would provide some pretty cool benefits. I recall them saying that archive nodes synced in just 2 days, for example.
Oh, I
Yeah,
haven't dug into it yet. I'm definitely interested to kind of play around with it.
yeah. Hoping we get Rocket Pool support for that as soon as they get it to mainnet.
Yeah, we have to kind of get we kind of have to let it get some. I mean, we often what we've done is put it into like an experimental thing where we put it on Prada for a while. So you can select it if you're on Prada, and then once it's kind of gotten a bit of, I guess I use this phrase too often, but the kind of Lindy effect. Once you know it's built up enough kind of experience on mainnet, then we can throw it into the actual mainnet part. But yeah, everything that we can do to promote execution diversity is really important.
I feel like just less than a year ago, we were looking at Geth with a 90% execution client majority, and now it's dropped so far. And part of the reason for that is a huge movement within the Rocket Pool community itself towards execution client diversity. So just big shout out towards Schifrin, Dr. Doofus, Sleety, and whoever else contributed towards the RPL client diversity website.
Yeah, that was fantastic initiative from the community, and I think it kind of goes to show that you know our node operators really care about the future of Ethereum, and they're not just willing to kind of do it themselves, but they're willing to kind of like promote that and kind of help the whole ecosystem kind of move forward, which is fantastic.
So moving on to R&D. There's an ongoing design process for on-chain P downloading. Can you talk a little bit about this? Because I believe this is a system that would not even use Aragon. It would be its own system. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, so actually, we bounced around. So we bounced around a lot actually. It's been quite fun because we've been having a lot of design talk at the moment. But in terms of the PDAO stuff, so Kane is still kind of nailing down parts of it. So, but we've kind of bounced around a little bit. So there is a standard. There's a couple of standards actually in terms of governance. And so we're trying to incorporate as many of the actual standards as we can. The kind of funny thing that we're kind of having to kind of work through is there are some like technical things that are specific to Rocket Pool that mean that we might not be able to use all the standards as they are. And so that's why we're kind of like working through that at the moment. But anyway, so the overarching goal is to basically so at the moment the PDAO use Snapshot to as a signaling mechanism to signal intent to move forward with things. So for example, upgrades, they signal that they essentially ratify the fact that we should be upgrading, or we should be having these kind of budget categories, or we want to change these settings. And so, but it's really a signaling mechanism and not actually kind of on-chain execution. The PDAO voting mechanism, it would basically give on-chain power to the PDAO. So it'll allow the PDAO to be able to vote and kind of execute those changes. Upgrades are different, but it's mainly around PDAO. There are two things that it really relates to. The first one is settings. So there are some PDAO settings that the PDAO can actually change. And so those settings will be under the purview of the PDAO. Then there is also kind of like budget categories and spending, and that will be under the purview of this PDAO on-chain voting as well. There was it's one of the things that may not be under the PDAO is some of the stuff around kind of deactivation of things. So, for example, turning off deposits and that sort of thing. So some of that stuff will probably be put under like maybe a security council or something. Where all of this will be kind of in like our draft design, which obviously will go out to everybody for community feedback on and discourse on and all this sort of stuff. But that's what we're kind of working through at the moment is the reason why we're going to suggest the Security Council is mainly around being able to execute those quite quickly if necessary and all that sort of stuff. So, but that we'll kind of lay that out within the post. So, Kane, in terms of the progress on that, Kane is finishing off kind of like some of the ideas or the design around it and the options, and then he's going to put out a post, and then everyone can kind of like throw their 2 cents in and discuss it and co-develop it and all that sort of stuff.
Great. That's going to be a huge step forward in the process of the true decentralization of the Rocket Pool protocol, moving it on-chain as much as we can, and sort of making a more robust system for all the procedures that are already happening, like the PDAO funding, before we even get to things like the deposit pool. So overall, fantastic to see that moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's really exciting. We're kind of looking forward to it. It kind of fills in that area, removes a bit of kind of trust from the team, which is exactly kind of what we want as well. So that it is definitely it's definitely exciting.
Yeah, the community has definitely been planning for this kind of things for a while, so win-win all around. So moving on, another big topic of conversation within trading recently has been around gigapools or megapools. This idea that you can have a single mini pool contract for an unbounded number of mini pools, but that's also might not be doing the entire idea justice, especially in light of recent discussions around potentially increasing the effective max balance from 32 to potentially much higher, as well as other design potentials unlocked through megapools. Can you talk a little bit about how the team has just been looking at megapools broadly, and also what is a megapool?
So each of us has been basically using a different prefix. Some of us say giga, some of them say mega. One person says maxi, but nobody likes maxi. So yeah, at the moment, yeah, I know it just feels wrong. I think Megapool is kind of where we're going with it at the moment. So the idea there is, so at the moment, every validator, sorry, every validator that a node operator spins up is a different smart contract. So it's called a mini pool contract. So every time you deposit a new 8 ETH in this case, or 16 ETH if you're doing 16, it will create a new mini pool contract. And we've tried to obviously optimize that gas cost as well to as much as possible. But there is a cost for pretty much every validator that you spin up. The other cost is on distribution of balances. So every time you want to, when your rewards come back to your mini pool contract, you then have to execute a transaction on each of your mini pools to distribute those balances. If you've got kind of like one or two mini pools, it's not tragic. But if you've got kind of hundreds or even tens or hundreds, even 5 to be honest, it gets expensive to kind of do that. And then you're kind of like not distributing it as much. So from a protocol perspective, that ETH isn't coming back as often as it probably could be as well to facilitate withdrawals and oh, sorry, cough. So there's kind of like protocol level reasons, but then there's this massive benefit for node operators in the sense that first of all it's so much cheaper to spin up Megapool. Megapools. With Megapools, you, instead of having like a individual mini pool per validator, essentially you have one Megapool that handles all of your validators. Now, the reason we couldn't do that before was because there's a number of technical reasons, but the main one is we can't really tell the difference between like a full withdrawal and a partial withdrawal if we've kind of all thrown them all into one thing. So, but with 4788, which is EIP 4788, which is this beacon state root stuff, that becomes we actually can tell the difference between them. And we can do some interesting stuff with that. So that kind of enables this functionality. It means that we can have one contract that handles all of the validators, which obviously means that spinning up a new validator is going to cost. It's going to be so much cheaper. The other thing is distributing is one call on one contract, so that's going to be a lot cheaper. And so that it's going to be so from a node operator perspective, it's going to be much more cost efficient. From a protocol perspective, it means that we're much more efficient, and so it's definitely a kind of a good win.
From a design perspective, the thing that really comes to mind to me is the idea of a broader credit basis. If all the mini pools are now getting associated with one sort of account, we sort of expand our sort of slashable basis too, right? Like if a user has 100 mini pools now under one contract, and they are someone who is crafty enough to theoretically want to steal MEV, do we now potentially have a new kind of lever in resisting MEV for larger node operators? Because we now have this ability to concretely connect different validators.
Yeah, possibly. I haven't kind of gone in that direction in terms of that. But it does, because it means that it's much more at the node level at that point.
Right.
Obviously, we kind of have to support both models in the short term. But like with a lot of things, once you have like an advancement, there is actually a very there's kind of like a motivation to take up that advancement. So, and then like from the smart nodes perspective, we won't support the old way. We'll just support the new way. So, more people will be using mega pools than the kind of other way. So, but yeah, no, that is definitely something we can look into, and it's particularly in terms of our kind of design, in the design space for like particularly the execution layer kind of penalty kind of system stuff. That is kind of one thing that we can look at.
It'll be a pretty cool. I think there's just a huge design space that ends up potentially opening up here, especially if you want to start considering less ETH bonded pools down to 4 or below. Once you have a very large credit account, or almost like a social reputation score at that point. Yeah, tons of interesting things that we could talk endlessly about just on gigapools, but we should probably move on as there's other stuff in the biweekly. Nate, one thing that's also very important in the hardening of protocol is the ODAO and reducing the ODAO's duties and trying to find ways to reduce trust where possible. This was a large theme within the charter. I'm curious how the ongoing analysis is.
Yeah, so we've actually been working very, very closely with Noshua. So Noshua obviously got a grant from the GMC to do some analysis and kind of design work on the current ODAO duties and how we can kind of like make them more trustless, or so make them more trustless or get rid of them completely. Is kind of like the thing, or get rid of the ODAO's involvement in it. So there's a few different kind of aspects to it, but mainly, so can we remove those ODAO duties so that they no longer need to be done by the ODAO, which relies on like an honesty assumption. Now it's quite a strong honesty assumption because they are what is it? Are we up to 18? Is it 18?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, 18 kind of very high profile Ethereum sort of organization and personalities. So they are very public figures, and so the honesty assumption is very high, but it still relies on trust rather than being kind of completely trustless. So can we make it trustless, and thus that no longer needs to be done by that body. It can actually be done by node operators or some other kind of like party. So that's what kind of I won't speak too much about the Noshua stuff because he's going to or they're going to put that out there. But they've gone into a lot of detail and come up with designs. We've been working with Noshua on just kind of providing feedback on that. And now we're kind of like working together in terms of like a co-development sort of thing to translate that into what we would do from a protocol perspective. So Kane's been doing a lot of kind of like prototyping of little elements of it, and kind of refining the design a little bit to see where that would go. And it's looking really, really positive. Like the last few weeks with the PDAO stuff, the Giga Mega Maxi pool, and the ODAO duty stuff, it's been quite fun. And again, we've been kind of referring back to members of the community kind of on this stuff along the way. And we'll put out more information so that people can engage with it as kind of things get a little bit more not concrete, but certainly better drafted, so that we can kind of talk about it.
It seems like how we're currently in V2 of Rocket Pool, so to speak, with the launch of Atlas, it sounds like V3 is starting to find the skeleton upon which we will actually end up creating the next upgrade with. So that's pretty exciting and hardening.
It is. Yeah, it is. And with the PDAO and the ODAO stuff, that's definitely hardening from a decentralization perspective. The megapool stuff, that kind of gives us efficiency, and again probably adds to scalability a bit there as well. So yeah, it's looking very, very good. I'm at the point now where we're kind of putting together roughly kind of what horizons we've got. So it's not quite release planning yet, but I've kind of got an idea about what comes first and that sort of thing. Again, there's a few elements of the design stuff that I want to kind of nail down before I can be sure of what that critical path looks like. And so I want to nail those down before I start putting more information out there about this. But we've kind of got an idea about the horizons. A lot of the stuff that we are going to put out, or the really exciting stuff, is post Cancun. So obviously we'll be doing a lot of development work before Cancun, but we wouldn't be able to release it until after Cancun because it relies heavily on 4788, and pretty much everything that we're building or that we're looking at, all the exciting stuff apart from the PDAO voting stuff can be done before. But like the ODAO stuff and the megapool, that relies on 4788, so that's after kind of Cancun. So we're kind of looking at those sorts of horizons and seeing what could go in before, what could go in after. There's a lot that can go in after, so that may actually end up being several kind of releases. But yeah, it's really exciting. I mean, looking at the stuff that we've got, and obviously all of this stuff, the roadmap, and it's been kind of like discussed with the community in terms of the priorities, and the priority was basically PDAO and ODAO, and kind of some efficiency improvements. So that's essentially what we're kind of going through and scoping out.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect reflection of what the community has been asking for, and what the broader community has desired. With Cancun, that is the next upgrade that's including dank sharding, or is that the one after dank sharding?
That's the one with dank sharding.
Awesome. So that's potentially a next year timeline, probably, hopefully Q1. Who knows though?
Yeah, I haven't caught up. I haven't caught up with it. I believe they originally said it was coming out maybe by the end of the year, but I'm not quite sure. So
Yeah,
it's more likely to be beginning of next year.
they always start a little ahead of themselves. Well, so moving on, the new content continues to roll on in the background. Any updates there?
Oh, sorry, I missed that bit. What was that? Sorry.
The website continues to be
Ah,
worked on in
yes.
the background, right? Yep.
Yes. So yes. There are two elements that we're working on for that. So the whole structure of the website is done, and a lot of the initial content is kind of in. I'm going through at the moment and just reviewing the content. We kind of dragged our heels a little bit because we had to kind of bounce with different priorities. But we're kind of back on that in earnest now. I'm going through the content now and just upgrading some of the content. And we are starting to work on imagery and that sort of thing. So that is kind of coming through now.
Great. And then this is one that I believe we discussed a couple times ago. Ledger. We were in the midst of integrating with Ledger, and I believe they were stuck on the auditing process. Is that where we still stand?
Yeah, so we had to kind of book in audits. So Ledger don't do the audits themselves. They do a very brief kind of code review thing, but they actually get a third party to kind of do a security, and it's basically a third party. This does what we think it should do sort of audit. So it's basically a transparency and security audit. So we had to kind of like book that in. That's booked in, and technically we kicked it off this week. Was it this week or last week? Not sure. Time flies. But we technically we kicked it off. Actually, it was this week. But they won't actually start auditing until kind of like beginning of July. So it'll actually be kind of mid to late July, before we can kind of apparently once it's audited from on the ledger side, it's quite quick. So hopefully, kind of mid to late July, and we'll have the kind of ledger sort of integration in.
You know, by that time, hopefully the validator queue will have dropped off pretty substantially, and we can see a pretty large amount of rETH capacity in the protocol. So maybe that works out in our favor pretty well.
Yeah, timing wise, I don't think it's too bad.
So Smart Node version 1.10 is continuing in the background. Do you know if Joe has any big surprises up his sleeve for that one?
I think he's he keeps calling it the cursed release, but but only because of like client stuff, client testing and that sort of thing. So no, he's working very, very hard at the moment on getting like the client support. Actually, is that the next one before that? I can't remember, and I'm trying to remember what the how he's put the stuff in, but I know he's working on kind of like rolling tree gen and that sort of thing, which is a much later thing, but that's going to be very, very exciting for kind of like the process of generating that RPL rewards tree. So currently it takes quite a few hours to kind of generate that. Although for the rocket scientist it seems to happen almost instantaneously.
It's hilarious.
It's quite funny. So yeah, and actually we've been incorporating those improvements into that process as well. But the rolling tree gen is going to be fantastic because it means that it'll happen pretty much straight away. So we won't have to wait the hours with that. But that's a big release for the smart node. So we're going to be doing a lot of testing to make sure that that's okay, because that touches quite a lot of things. So we'll run that on Prater quite a bit before it kind of goes out.
Joe also posted a RPL and tree gen calculation update, I believe. Yes, V6 rewards tree spec.
Yeah.
So yeah, tons of work. Big shout out to Joe in the background.
Yeah, and everyone he's been working with, to be honest, because so Joe doesn't work in a silo on this anymore. That used to be the case, but not really anymore. Oh, actually, it's probably never been the case, to be honest. He's actually working with kind of Patches and Romano at the moment. I think Romano's writing kind of their I can probably say his kind of version of that as well. And so yeah, there's a lot of kind of work behind the scenes to make sure the spec is as rock solid as possible and less ambiguity as possible, but also to make sure that there's multiple implementations of it so that it kind of flushes out any of those issues that we don't want to see kind of happen. So it really does battle harden the spec and the process, which is amazing.
One of the pitfalls of not doing what we are doing with the multiple implementations is what befell Avado recently, or it wasn't Avado, it was the other one that recently onboarded us, or it might have been
Dapnode.
Yes, Dapnode.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're watching along in support or if Patch has filled you in, but their implementation seemed to have a few gaps and some node operators who were using DApp node almost got themselves dissolved, but thanks to patches and the others who were there to follow along and help out, it seems everyone was mostly all right.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they should be on Prada.
Yeah.
But yes, yeah, well, it's that's fantastic that we've managed to kind of like hit that off.
Yeah. Big shout out to the sports channel for jumping on top of that and helping guide what was an unfortunate situation. Moving on to governance, big shout out to Valdor for the full functional draft of the ODAO charters, the various implementations that we could look at, and including a sentiment poll to indicate which one of the polls, of the draft to support. I believe it is a poll to indicate as is, or if not. Yes, it is as is or is not suitable type poll for the current draft. This charter is really thorough and outlines the path forward for reducing the ODAO inflation, as well as outlining core principles for the charter. So this charter has been available for a little while now, but if you haven't voted in the sentiment poll, I do highly encourage you to do that.
Yeah, definitely look at that way kind of ahead of time. Obviously, that will also go up for vote and all that sort of thing, both across the PDAO and ODAO as well. So just make sure that you kind of take a read through that and before it kind of comes up to vote. But yeah, no, it's good. It's definitely been a process, and Valdorf has been working extremely hard on that. Particularly kind of it's not the easiest of thing to write, so he's done a very, very good job.
Yeah, it is a fantastic, almost constitutional document. In the GMC world, Schifrin has had to step down, but for good cause, as Schifrin has transitioned into the GMC administrator, who will hopefully be providing some significant structure and accountability to the GMC, which is a rather large committee, as it is essentially tasked to be the employer of the protocol. So good luck to Schifrin. I hope they accomplish the best.
Yeah, there's a lot kind of on the GMC's shoulders, and it does take a lot of there's a lot of administration, coordination, and that sort of thing in terms of just not just managing, because you've kind of got both sides. You've got the members themselves, but mainly you've got like all of the people who kind of like submit proposals and that sort of thing, and trying to kind of arrange those and work those through. And the committee is definitely a big job. So it's kind of a well needed position.
So the other major committee we have, IMC, has recently been tasked with a proposal from Polygon. The Polygon teams outlined a path for integrating rETH into the Polygon ZK EVM ecosystem, starting with liquidity incentives on a base pool, and then gradually building leverage and stablecoins on top of that. It was a fairly thorough proposal, and in support of Rocket Pool, the Polygon team also, of their own accord, decided to spend 50,000 USDC on liquidity incentives on the balancer rETH ETH pool. So if you have some rETH and want to experiment with ZK EVM, that there is already a destination to earn some yield there before the IMC has even decided to weigh in on this proposal. Getting to expand onto these new types of L2s is pretty cool. rETH being as simple as it is makes it easy to do this kind of exploration. So yeah, keep your eyes out on rETH cross-chain. This transitions nicely into the world of integrations. Uh, the flavor of this week is definitely stablecoin collateral, as there have just been a huge list of these that have enabled rETH as collateral, including vendor finance, Nuon, Lucid, and Raft is currently at proposal stage. I believe Prisma is also in the governance or recently launched rETH support, and Libra announced rETH support in the next version of their protocol. So across the ecosystem, these LSDeFi protocols have been exploding, with a number of them being based on stablecoins. So, Darren, where do you see rETH in the future of these stablecoins? One of the IMC's recent concerns has been the incredible growth in leverage. Do you think this is at all concerning?
Yes. Oh, okay. So there's a few different. There's probably a few different things to unpack. So it is really great to see kind of innovation with liquid staking tokens. I think that's a really good thing. I think everyone should do their own research when they're kind of getting involved within different protocols. I think leverage in general is something that the whole ecosystem has to be kind of very, very aware of, because it's probably one of the biggest. It causes a lot of shock when it goes wrong. So it is definitely something that the whole ecosystem needs to kind of be aware of in terms of that.
You know, I was reading through Lido Governance Forum, as one does, of course, and I found a post from there, sort of like equivalent to our IMC, and it outlined that they want to gradually reduce liquidity incentives that are LDO denominated, and importantly, that their protocol does not want to foot the bill for leverage staking and potential defects that can occur. Essentially, Lido doesn't want to foot the bill of maintaining billions in liquidity just because people want to go leverage stake. It is currently an unclear question, like what the role of the liquid staking protocol should be. How, of course, it would be irresponsible to incentivize leverage, but how actively do we disincentivize leverage is also up for question. We're currently not at super, super crazy levels, but it is starting to get there.
Yeah. It's very difficult because at a protocol level we can't really do anything because one of the guiding principles is permissionlessness. But certainly from an incentive perspective, that is something that we can control to some degree, at least. And I think so. I've probably been slightly naive in the sense that I think it's kind of beholden on debt markets to risk manage, but from the dawn of time, debt markets haven't necessarily been very good at risk management. And I think maybe there's and this is just off the top of my head, but maybe there is like this incentive imbalance because a debt market wants to grow, and to grow it needs kind of like loose risk management, but but it also needs to maintain risk management so that things don't blow up and they don't get bad debt. So it's like this really a kind of you're on a pin head. You're on this nexus of between kind of not growing fast enough and falling off completely. So I think so maybe that is just something that kind of is natural to debt markets, and that maybe there's something there in terms of the future debt markets that people will create to balance out those incentives.
Yeah, I hope so. And debt markets are certainly one of the most experimented places within crypto. So maybe we figure it out one day. But yeah,
Yeah, I think a lot of them kind of do the whole tranche thing, to
yeah,
kind of like what is it, to kind of seal off levels of kind of risk.
isolated
Um,
markets.
yeah, isolated markets and that sort of stuff. But yeah, so that will be interesting to see how that goes.
One of the ones that I really liked was the MISA Finance Oracle free liquidation free type of leverage, wherein the users pre-agree to the end value of the token. So you're pretty immune for any flash crash events, as long as you're willing to accept that uh, the tokens you receive on X date will be of a certain amount, and you are just have natural confidence that Rocket Pool. One second. Sorry, I had to let my dog out there. Yeah, so without the Oracle risk, you just, if you get one rETH at the end, you are fairly confident that that rETH can be converted to ETH through Rocket Pool at some point. So, yeah, debt markets continue to evolve. MetaMask announced support for bridging rETH from mainnet to Arbitrum and Optimism. This continues MetaMask's support for enabling rETH in their ecosystem. MetaMask previously enabled rETH minting from inside the app, which has been pretty huge for enabling flows.
Yeah, we have
We,
a very good relationship with kind of like the MetaMask team, and we kind of talk to them. So it's a good kind of relationship that we build up, and we're kind of building up these relationships now with a lot of the kind of wallets, and so that's kind of probably that's definitely our next wave of integrations, and I guess probably distributional growth is going to come from that area as well.
yeah, it's very natural that now that we've sort of built the infrastructure, we need to find the people to populate it, and the best way to do that is the door-to-door sales marketing in the crypto world, wallets. So yeah, looking forward to that. The IMC has been working with Kronos to incentivize liquidity on Arbitrum. Kronos is a Solidly fork that has some modifications, but they were generous enough to give us a VE NFT to bribe with. So you can earn some yield on the rETH pool on Arbitrum with Kronos. Additionally, on Arbitrum, Pendle has been a source of great revenue for rETH. Pendle is one of the largest LSDFi protocols, which focuses on fixed income versions of protocols, and essentially allows for interest rate swaps. So they've had a huge amount of TVL growth, and I believe are the biggest single holders of rETH on Arbitrum. PenPy
That's impressive.
is, yeah, they passed Balancer on Arbitrum, and the Beats fork there too. PenPy is a protocol built on top of Pendle that is also now supporting rETH. PenPy, I believe, is sort of like a convex to curve in the Pendle ecosystem. So pretty cool that they are building their own little ecosystem there. Pendle did a Twitter space with us months and months ago. So maybe it's time for a round two with Pendle. Index Co-op has been pretty active in the community talking about their new IC rETH token. They are looking for people who are interested in this, which is a single package leverage position using Aave and Morpho Finance. The token has passed the vote and is expected to launch, but they are looking for initial token backers. So if you are looking, or if you're interested in a passive leverage staking product, reach out to Index Co-op. CIAN was our guest today, and they now support rETH in their recursive yield optimizer strategy. Of course, they told us all about how this strategy is built on top of Aave, and potentially you can also use CIAN for their automation tools, which could enable you to do automatic arbitrage if rETH depegs either to the positive side or to the negative side. Lastly, in our integration section, Morpho enabled rETH as collateral. This has then been put into the backends of Index, as well as DeFi Saver and other protocols that tend to use Aave leverage staking. Unfortunately, Morpho's peer-to-peer pool is drained, meaning that rETH leverage staking is currently unprofitable on Morpho or Aave. But yeah, what a huge list of integrations. It seems like every couple of weeks it's just up and up and up.
Yeah, it doesn't stop, does it? Yeah, so that's kind of fitting. We will have kind of like an ecosystem person starting on the Rockable team very soon, and so they'll kind of be supporting myself and Mav in that kind of area, in terms of integrations and outreach and all of that sort of stuff.
When do we officially get to meet them?
Surprise. It's going to be a surprise.
Classic. Well, I hope they'll be dropping a Shui video soon after they join.
I can't promise that. I don't want to throw them in it, but maybe, I don't know.
Don't worry, we'll bully them into it in trading. So media and marketing. It has been a busy week for the team in terms of calls.
Yeah, there's been a few.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we do weekly Twitter spaces. So last week it was just you and I, Jasper, chatting about some of these integrations and marketing developments, and then
it was a midweek update, but it felt like a full week's worth of full 2 weeks worth.
Yeah, exactly. And then what seems a very long time ago was Asymmetry Finance as a guest, and we still have 6 or so calls and panels listed in the event section of Discord. So make sure you head along to them and support Rocket Pool. Some of the other great support that we've had recently on the media marketing space was from Masari. So in a recent Twitter thread, they ranked Rocket Pool as the only liquid staking protocol to have high confidence in Lindy, DeFi utility, and decentralization. So good to see that external third parties are objectively supporting Rocket Pool in that way.
I think Rocket Pool really has entrenched its brand as the leading decentralized staking token, even among the big players.
Yeah, for sure. It's great to see. And then you were on a podcast too recently. I think we may have mentioned that this was being recorded on a previous Twitter space, but now it's available for everyone to tune into and listen to. Is that right?
Yes, so the Strange Water podcast with Haim Crypto. He's a big thread owner and great guy all around. We talked about Rocket Pool, my journey into it, sort of how Rocket Pool is like the iceberg meme, where you start with something like simple like rETH, but then you get deeper and deeper and just gets more and more complicated, and it seems never ending. We talked a bit about things as wide as Buddhism to utilitarianism. It was overall a wonderful podcast, and I would recommend it. And that was, and then I also spoke with Kronos for an AMA over on their Discord, which was a great time. We generally talked about the nature of staking on Ethereum on a more metaphorical scale, or a grander picture, and talked about the proof of work versus proof of stake and the importance of decentralized staking. Langers was on a panel or just a solo conversation with Maverick Protocol. Maverick Protocol being pretty popular for their novel low fee pool structure.
Yeah, I don't think that one was a panel, but
no, it was just us.
Yeah, good protocol, and I believe rETH is on there just from the natural demand of users wanting to trade rETH on different protocols. Mav, you then had a chat with the Compound Developer Committee, is that right?
yeah, that was a pretty quick one in their Discord, somewhat of an introduction. They have I think it's like a weekly chat where they get updates from different protocols in the ecosystem. So I ripped Rocket Pool there. It was a bit of a late night one, so save Langers off the back of his Maverick protocol chat. If I recall correctly, they were the same day. But yeah, we could see potentially some integration of rETH into Compound in the future.
I contacted a few people, and we do have the comp whales, so when we have a proposal ready, we will be good to go. So looks good on that front.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you for that, Jasper.
Yeah, of course. So the usual weekly listing of new sketchy central exchanges that have listed RPL include BitCastle, Woo, Changely, and yeah, so always make sure to do your own research, but RPL continues to expand.
Seems if there was ever a good opportunity for many such cases, it would be the amount of these interesting quote unquote exchanges listing RPL.
Every time I see this, it just astonishes me that there are just more centralized exchanges out there. I did not realize there were this many. So, moving on, rETH continues to dominate the headlines some days with its ability to lead the others in number of mints. rETH, on the back of a 2,200 ETH deposit, I believe, ended up having the most mints in one day this past week. And then in terms of protocol share or market share, Rocket Pool was the fastest growing protocol in the past 6 months.
Yeah, there's obviously a lot of different ways to measure things based on ETH, based on percentages and different time frames. And I think for every protocol out there, you'll be able to construct some version of events that looks at you favorably. But there are certainly a few cases here that highlighted Rocket Pool's growth. And as we kind of mention quite often in these spaces, whether queues are full or empty, that doesn't mean that nothing's happening. There's usually a continual churn, and as I think you said earlier in the call, Jasper, quite regularly getting 1,000 ETH deposited per day, oftentimes much more. So great to see.
Another thing that was awesome to see is that the work of Dr. Doofus and Co. Has enabled Aragon Project to diversify some of their stake away from Steve and into rETH. They were originally planning on staking all of their ETH with Slido, but have decided instead to put 20%, I believe, with Rocket Pool. So this is a big victory in terms of decentralization at the level of DAOs. And this L1, L0 movement should continue. Hopefully we can get more DAOs to diversify their stake.
Yeah, and ideally diversify it further, right? If at some point in the future there's other highly decentralized liquid staking tokens, there's potential there for them to take up other positions too, which would be great to see. Instead of kind of that mission of decentralizing and diversifying solely falling on Rocket Pool's shoulders as it is today, at least.
Yeah, it's an impossible burden as Rocket Pool, just like a client, can't do everything. Diversity is the end game, and can't have diversity with only 2 players. Ken will be representing Rocket Pool at Permissionless in August, this September. Permissionlessness is a pretty big event, I believe, run by Blockworks or Bankless. So that's a great milestone for Ken, and I will be very jealous of anyone who gets the opportunity to check that out.
Yeah, Ken's going to do an amazing job. He's kind of like he's kind of done presentations before, and they've been excellent. So it's definitely one to kind of watch or go along to if you're actually there.
And that just about wraps things up for me. Unless you have anything to add, Mav?
I think we're done. I've already given my plug for the upcoming spaces and events. So yeah, another great call. Lots of things have happened in the past 2 weeks and are clearly being worked on for the future.
Normally I would give my summary, but my voice is starting to give out on me today. And I will just highlight that the discussion earlier today on the megapool design, ODAOs, and PDAO hardening was just incredible. So if you missed that, I highly encourage you to go find the recording and go check that part out. But otherwise, thank you for listening in today. This has been an off-pace call, but been incredibly bullish. Thank you all for listening, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you, Jasper. Thank you, everybody.
Cheers, guys. See you.
Cheers.